So today is April 2nd, and I'm realizing that I forgot to do a March farm tour. So let's pretend for a second that it's still March. I mean, it's only the beginning of April, and let's go take a tour. Okay, so we're about to go into the third week of spring, and it has warmed up quite nicely. It's going to be about in the 80s this coming week. It's Friday, so this coming week it's going to be in the 80s. But the thing about living in the high desert is at night it's still in the 40s. So it's like a 40-degree difference. So the days will be in the 80s, the nights will be in the 40s, maybe the 50s. So it just makes growing out here very interesting. But I've gotten a lot of work done out here the past week, and so I want to show you guys what is sprouting, what's growing, and everything that we've been able to accomplish this past week. So yeah, let's start. I'll give you guys an overview of the garden to start off with. So here's how everything's looking. I have these 4 raised beds here at the very front, and then I have those raised beds back there, and I want to put another set just like that next to it where those soil bags are. But here's how things are looking, and then we'll go through and look at each thing. But this is just the overview for you guys and for myself as well, because I want to see what the difference is a month from now. So yeah, let's take a closer look at what's growing on. I'm so excited to do this spring first full garden tour. Some of the accounts that I follow here on YouTube were putting out their March garden tours and farm tours, and I realized I didn't do one, and that was one of the things I was looking forward to most for this new gardening season. So I did want to show you guys this real quick. We're putting this little lattice fence across the center of the yard. There's a sidewalk here, but we're putting this fence across to keep the ducks out of this side of the garden. I originally got the ducks for the garden, which I mentioned that in a previous video, to keep down the squash bug and beetle population. But then once they started going after the crops, they had to move on out. So what I'm going to try to do now is when I get ready to pull something from a bed and flip it to put a new planting, I'm going to let the ducks be in that bed. We have this little fence gate thing to put around the bed, and then just see if they can eat some of the pests and pest larvae out of the soil before I plant. So that's our new plan. Yeah, and we'll see how that works. So I'm going to show you these first 4 raised beds, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so in this bed here, we have a second round. Actually, this is like the 3rd round, because the 2nd round was over there, but it was just a few. So I'll show you guys this one first. But this is a succession planting of Japanese red mustard. And then over here I have snow peas, which it was kind of a last minute decision to put those in. Like I said, the weather's already warming up, but they seem to be doing okay. Really, those could probably go in our climate, those could probably go in December. But I had no intentions of growing them until I saw a YouTube video a couple weeks ago and found out that you can harvest peas for the shoots and just eat the greens, which is more my style. I'm not a huge fan of peas, but I think I could get into the greens, putting them in wraps and on sandwiches and in salads. Here I have some poppies. I got these as plant starts from Lowe's. I tried very unsuccessfully to grow poppies in the fall, and yeah, they never germinated. Well, they might have germinated, but if they did, I pulled them out with weeds. I just direct seeded them in this bed, and I never really saw any signs of poppy seedlings. So I got those plant starts from Lowe's, and they're doing pretty good. It's actually starting to get too warm for them as well, but they're still hanging on. I've cut a few flowers from them. I'm going to try to take them to the farmer's market this weekend, or tomorrow, really. But we'll see. They're still making new stems, so hopefully before it gets too hot, they'll be able to continue to grow a few more stems. along the front here, I have asparagus yard long beans, and I thought these weren't going to come up at first, but they're coming up really nicely. They took a while, and I'm assuming it's because the nights have been so chilly, but they're up now. And then I have a Swiss chard here and a Swiss chard there. There was two more right there, but the ducks got those. So once the ducks came over here and pulled those out, that's when we decided to go ahead and get the better fencing than what we had. And I thought the ducks had originally um, eaten all the peas out of the garden bed, because ducks are notorious for liking peas, but they actually left them alone. They did get to the collard greens, which is what's here and here, and they ate a few of the leaves off, but they're starting to come back. So, and it's almost starting to get too warm for collard greens too. So, one of the things I've definitely learned this year about living in a zone 8A high desert is a lot of stuff that people grow early spring, I could probably actually grow through the winter, which I did do with the mustard. I overwintered the mustard and was able to get several harvests from the mustard over the winter. So I'm going to try that again this year. But let's take a look at this bed over here. I have 3 more poppies. So these were actually all in a container together. So that was one container and that was another container. And I feel like each of these is actually maybe a clump of 2 plants. So there was at least 3 to 6 plants. I can't tell. I didn't want to separate them any further just because poppies have a taproot, so they're not known to transplant well once they get to a certain size. So that's why I was a little bit nervous about them as well. But I did want to separate them just because they were really root bound. But yeah, these don't have any flowers on them because I cut them all off this week. But they should produce more stems as long as it doesn't get like too hot. Here is a tomato. This is a Roma bush tomato. It shouldn't get too tall, but this is my first time growing tomatoes outside. It's doing very well, much better than I originally thought it would do, because when I bring my tomato seedlings out, they tend to wilt pretty quickly. But I guess having this deeper container and more space for roots, it's able to find more water than my seedlings are able to do in their seedling pots. So I need to get the rest of my tomatoes out here pretty soon. I just haven't had a chance, and I believe I want to put them in a raised bed like that, which I don't have those ready yet. So it might be another week or so before I can get my tomatoes in the ground. I had another tomato here, but it got really windy the other day before I put the stakes in, and it pretty much just ripped the tomato that was here apart. So that's why there's still a little bit of mulch there, and there's nothing there. There's like some sweet potato slips there that I don't know how they'll do. I overwintered them inside and they lost all of their foliage. So we'll see if they come back. If they don't, I'll probably just end up putting maybe basil or calendula right there, which calendula is actually another cool season flower. So I'm not 100% sure how it'll do with it already being 80 degrees. And then across the front here, we have cinnamon basil, which smells amazing. I highly recommend planting cinnamon basil if you ever get an opportunity to. Okay, and then let's look over at this bed over here. In this bed, I have planted some gladiola. This is my first time to plant that. This is actually my first time to plant most of these items in my garden. But I watch YouTube videos from Nicole, her YouTube account is Flower Hill Farm, and she raved so much about gladiola, so I decided to give it a try this year. And then that is a Shasta daisy, and that is a Shasta daisy, yeah, right there. And I think I planted that Shasta daisy like directly on top of a gladiola bulb. I put the gladiola in first, and then I came back with the Shasta daisies and forgotten where I had stopped the gladiolas, so I didn't realize that they were that close. So you can see this gladiola is coming up like right underneath that Shasta daisy. And there's more of the Japanese red mustard. It's getting pretty big. I'm probably going to harvest it this evening. I usually try to do my harvests Friday mornings. So like I was saying, I usually try to do my harvests on Friday mornings, but had an appointment at the cardiologist this morning. So for those who don't follow me on other social media platforms, I was diagnosed with heart failure in 2019 when I was pregnant with twins. So I've been seeing a cardiologist since then, but from that point up until now, like, things have gotten progressively better. And today I got the results from my most recent echocardiogram and blood work, and my numbers are looking really great. My doctor was really pleased. My ejection fraction is now at 55 to 60%, which is the normal and healthy range. Most normal healthy people will have an ejection fraction of 55 to 70%, so I'm doing great. And when I was originally diagnosed with heart failure, my ejection fraction was 35%. So yeah, it's been an amazing improvement. All glory to God, and I am feeling so amazing right now. I'm super excited and super ecstatic. And I'm just excited to know that when I'm out here working in the garden, I don't have to be like nervous that I'm going way too hard and it's gonna be extremely detrimental to my body. So today's been an amazing day. It's been a really good day, and it happens to be Good Friday. So I got good news on this Good Friday, and Easter Sunday is coming up, which just is an awesome time of reflection, because I am a believer in Christ. So this has been an amazing week, and I just look forward to celebrating on Easter Sunday. So I'm going to take you guys to the next bed so we can see what's going on. Just show you really quick. I have this little spot in between these two raised beds where the gladiola and mustard are, and the Shasta daisies. And then over here, this is buckwheat. I got this in a seed trade, and I scattered the seeds in a previous YouTube video. And yeah, they're coming up. They're coming up in little clumps, which I think is super cute. I want to use the buckwheat flowers and foliage and cut flowers. From what I've seen, it holds up pretty well in the vase, and then I want to let some of them go to seed so that I can have more buckwheat that is acclimated to our climate. So over here, I had a few extra of the White Knight Pro Cut sunflowers that didn't fit in my original sunflower bed over there, so I just stuck them over here so they wouldn't go to waste. All that white powder is grits. It's supposed to help with ants, and actually I put it in yesterday and I don't see as many ants as I did yesterday, so I hope that's good. Actually, yeah, I can see some of the ants carrying the grits, so yeah, sorry guys, not sorry. But anyways, because last year they were taking pollen out of some of my like squash flowers and okra flowers before they were fully pollinated, so that was a bummer. And then also they were bringing aphids. If you don't know, ants farm aphids, and aphids kill plants. So ants aren't necessarily bad, but when they start bringing the aphids, that can be a problem. And it was definitely a problem for me last year. So I also have a few lilies planted here. I want to say there's like 7, but 3 of them have come up. 1, 2, 3. And then everything's looking a little bit dry. I didn't water last night like I usually do, but below the surface I think it's okay. And then right here I have giant Caesar lettuce. I just put these here because these were some extra transplants that I had, and I just decided they could fit right there. I think what I want to do is maybe put loofah here once these are ready to come out. I just started my loofah seeds, so I think they're a little bit slow to start, so I have a little while, and then once those are ready, I'll pull those out. I think I want to harvest them as head lettuce, so we'll see if I have enough time to do that. If I don't, then I'll just harvest them as cut lettuce. And then these were the extra dwarf bok choy. I had a lot here, like I had maybe like 50, maybe like 50, and then these are the ones that survived. Just because the weather was so harsh and the wind was bad and they were getting bug damage. So they just were not acclimated to this climate. And I did not harden them off very well, like at all. So I think I hardened them off for like 2 days. And so they were not happy with that. But they're starting to really get a lot of beautiful dark green foliage. They still have some bug and wind damage, but they look pretty. I've been just giving them to the ducks. I think what I'm going to do is let them go to seed so I can collect the seed of something that's more acclimated to this environment, because the ones I had, they just struggled once they got out in this New Mexico sun. But the strawberries look great. They're really blooming. Let's kind of zoom in. They're blooming. And before I knew what a strawberry flower looked like, I just saw the little green leaf around the outside of the strawberry, and I was like, what is wrong with my strawberry? But then people were telling me, oh, that's the bloom, so you can see those green leaves. So I really hope they actually turn into strawberries, because the ants have been in them, so maybe the ants are just helping pollinate. I'm not sure. But yeah, so now let's go look over here at this main garden part. I'll show you guys over here real quick. So here's that little raised bed, and I'm going to put a second one here. And I think I want to do tomatoes and maybe like maybe calendula, or I might have to start some marigold, and then maybe cucumbers. Maybe tomatoes across one, and then on the second one do cucumbers across the back. I'm not sure. Let's go look at these other beds. This is sunflowers, snapdragons, and then lettuce and zinnias. So if you take a closer look, these sunflowers I just put out this past week. So I was kind of apprehensive about starting a second succession, and then I realized I didn't stagger plant the ones here. Like, I did all these at the same time. Now, there are some branching ones in here. I don't know which ones they are. They're kind of all in the mix. There's maybe like 6 or 8 branching sunflowers somewhere in there. So while I'm waiting for these to come up, hopefully I can be harvesting some of the branching ones. And the ones that aren't branching are the pro-cut sunflowers, which are single stem. The back 2 rows are pro-cut orange, and the front row is pro-cut white knight. I have noticed that the white knight does have that lighter foliage, and the pests, which I'm thinking maybe it's moths or caterpillars, they like this lighter foliage. So if I do this, I might just try mixing up the white knight with the orange so that my white knight doesn't become a trap crop. But yeah, these are all pro-cut orange. I ordered the most seeds. I think I ordered 1,000 seeds of the pro-cut orange and only like 200 of the white knight. So it is definitely my goal to sell at least 1,000 sunflowers this year. So I'm really hoping to exceed that goal and have to order more. Like, that would be awesome. And then here's a closer look at the pro-cuts. These are so pretty. Like, I can't get over it. Just the foliage itself is so pretty, but you can see like just the little holes in some of the leaves, a little bit of bug damage. But when I harvest these, I may only leave just like one leaf on the actual cut flower, so that's okay. But these have been growing so beautifully. And last year when I grew pro-cut sunflowers, I only did a fall planting. So they were great, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how big they get with actual full sun and warmer days, because it was cooler when I did the fall planting of the pro-cuts. And they still got to a great height, but I would love to see them get even bigger with the warm 80-degree weather. And then I did net these just because it gets so windy here. So eventually I'll net those as well. But it's crazy to see them side by side. And even though I didn't stagger plant these, I don't think that they'll all be ready to harvest at the same time. Some of them are definitely smaller than others, and so I think once I pull up the larger ones or cut the larger ones, that'll help the smaller ones kind of get more nutrients because they're not having to share it. But what I want to do is have these two beds as sunflowers, and then as ones out of here are ready to harvest, once I cut them, go through and have more sunflowers ready and just plug them in into the empty spaces. And then over here is the Snapdragons. So I have these 4 10-foot beds, and these are all about 36 inches wide. These are the Snapdragons. These I have learned can be fall planted, which I did with the other ones in the 6-foot bed, but I didn't do nearly enough. So I didn't want to get ahead of myself. But then after listening to this really great flower farmer, her name is Lisa Mason Ziegler. She does have a YouTube channel, so you can check that out. And she has a Facebook page and a whole website where you can purchase awesome products and seeds. After listening to her talk about what this upcoming year is going to look like for flower farmers, I was just like, okay, I probably need to plant way more than what I have, which is why I've started several more successions of sunflowers and why I decided to do this next succession of Snapdragons. And then I just popped some radishes here at the edge of the bed just to see how they would do. And then this is my last 10-foot bed. I put these zinnias in this week. I was really nervous that the nights were going to be too cool for them because I did try to plant some zinnias out 3 times before. And all of those died because while the days were in the 70s, the nights were still getting into the 30s. So the zinnias did not like that. Right now, the nights are in the 40s, and next week they'll be in the 40s, and then after that, they should be warming up to the 50s. So that should be more the zinnias pace. That should be more about what they like. So I was very unsuccessful at growing zinnias last year as well, which everyone tells you it's an easy no-fail crop. But I definitely failed. I tried to plant zinnias in containers last year, and I learned, actually I didn't learn because I kept trying and I kept trying and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. It is way too hot here, and the ground, I had plastic containers on the ground and the sun was beaming down on them. Actually had them on, we have gravel on the other side of our yard. I had them on the gravel and the sun was beaming down on the gravel and cooking my plants, and I couldn't figure out why. It took me a few months to realize. So I think I got 2 cut zinnias the whole season, which I started the seeds in April of last year. And that's one reason why I started way sooner this year, because I realized if I don't get my zinnias in the ground as soon as I can and give them time to grow before the sun is beating down on them, it will completely fry them. So I'm excited to have them in the ground at the beginning of April as opposed to just starting the seeds at the end of April like I did last year, because I got them, they were outside at the end of April into May, and then May, June, and July, all they did was fry and fry and fry. And then it was either August or September, I finally got a flower. So I'm hoping to have flowers way before then. So those are my 10-foot beds. Oh, let me show you the lettuce, which is right next to the zinnias. So here's the lettuce. It's still doing really well. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised because I actually learned this retaining wall, it also retains heat really well. And so one summer day I came out here and leaned against the wall for something, and it was very, very hot. And I was like, oh, that must be why my zinnias fried, because I had them along this wall. But now I have this wood chip mulch here just as a pathway for myself, and also to remind myself not to plant anything here because it's way too close and will get way too hot. But these are romaine lettuce here, and then those are romaine lettuce. That's also romaine's red romaine and the butter crunch. And then those are just two chocolate cherry sunflowers that I stuck in. I have a really bad glare on my phone, so I can't tell what I'm pointing at, but those are two chocolate cherry sunflowers from seeds that I grew last year. So we'll see how those do. They were kind of struggling a little bit when I first put them in, but I think it's because the nights were still really cool. So let's go over here and look. These are my 6-foot beds. I call these my market beds. They're not necessarily like as long as some market gardeners are, but they're that standard like 30-inch, and then they're 6 feet long. So I have 3 of them here. And then my husband just dug that one this past week, and I'm gonna put some soil in it today and get some Kajari melons planted. I have another video coming up of a little experiment that I'm gonna do in this bed, so stay tuned for that. But over here we have the Snapdragons, which I fall planted. I want to say I got these in the ground in November or December, and I still haven't got any flowers from them. This one is budding up. Let's see if we can take a closer look. So this one is starting to bud up, but this is the very first one, and the other ones don't have any flower buds yet. So they've gotten significantly taller than they started out, with lots of branches, but no flower buds yet. So another thing that I've learned is I will probably have to start my Snapdragon seeds for next year. I'll probably have to start them in July, which sounds crazy, but if I want to have Snapdragons in January and February, which is totally possible in our climate, I'll have to get these in the ground by maybe October or November. So it sounds so wild to say that, but I watched this flower farmer I think he's in California, and he was talking about whenever he grows poppies, he starts his poppy seeds in July. So poppies are a cool weather flower, and so are Snapdragons. And I'm so nervous that the Snapdragons are gonna fizzle out before I even get many stems from them, just because we're about to hit 80 degrees. But this is the butter crunch. I'm using it as a living mulch for the Snapdragons to help keep them cool. So I think it's working out really nicely, and I harvest from that, and I've been using some of that in my salad mix, and it's so beautiful. It's crazy, like the difference in the greens, like the color green of the foliage of the Snapdragons and the color green of the foliage of the lettuce, but it's really beautiful and super cool. So I'm really excited to start cutting the Snapdragons. I think maybe in like a week, maybe a week and a half, I should be able to get 1 or 2 stems. So that's exciting for me, and it's definitely a learning lesson. And then over there I have Bloomsdale long-standing spinach, which I also planted that in the fall. The one in the corner that's kind of significantly larger than the other ones, that one I planted out in the summer, which is probably what I'll have to do again in order to get significant yields, because these that I actually planted in the fall have not been as vigorous as that one. In this bed I just tucked in a few romaine here that I had just some extras of. It might be romaine or giant Caesar. I think it's actually the giant Caesar, because I think it's the same that's in that raised bed. And I just planted them with the beets. They seem to be doing okay. I don't know if that was necessarily the best interplanting choice, but I thought I would just give it a try. And then I also have this garlic here, just my 3 garlic plants. I'm probably not even going to eat any of this garlic. I'm probably just going to save the cloves for next year's garlic, and build up my own like garlic stash, my own seed garlic stash that's acclimated to New Mexico. I keep saying that, like I'm letting it go to seed. I want it to be seed. I want it to be like New Mexico seed, just because the climate here is it's such an odd area to grow in because like I said, it's high desert. We barely get any rain, and it gets so hot, and plants just have a really hard time growing here. Plants that aren't native to the area. And like I don't necessarily just want to stick to only things that are native to the area. I do want to grow some native produce, but I also want to grow sugar baby watermelon and Kajari melon and Japanese red mustard. So that's not from New Mexico, but I want to grow them here in my garden. So what I want to do is let some of these items go to seed. So that way they've been developed in a plant that has survived this environment, so they'll be more hardy to this location. So that's one of my goals with growing this garden, is because I also want to be able to offer seed to other New Mexico gardeners, from plants that have been grown in this unique environment. This is where I put some more lilies here. I don't know if they're up yet. I mulched this really heavily, just because it's so hot here already. These are That's my shadow in the way, and these are more French breakfast radishes. These I planted really close, probably too close, and then I didn't ever thin them because there was issues with there's some kind of pest that's eating the foliage of those radishes, so they're not developing as good as they could be. So they're just kind of struggling. So I'm hoping the planting that I did over there doesn't get any bug damage, and can do better. That might be another thing I might need to let go to seed, but we shall see. I planted these asters here. Let's see. Yeah, I planted these asters here. There's 4 of them, and they're doing horrible. Yeah, they're not doing great. I think just the amount of wind, and I didn't let them get big enough. I started them December 30th, and I grew them until the beginning of March. So I thought 2.5 months should be plenty of time, before planting out, because other things you get out so much more quickly. But the asters were absolutely not happy. I'm really glad that I saved like 2 more for myself. Well, I saved 2 more inside, and they're still growing under grow lights. They've been growing so beautifully, so I'm really excited to actually get this planted out. I might end up putting more beds along this retaining wall because it gets several hours of shade during the day, which I think the aster might need. It I believe that it blooms in the fall, so it waits until the days are shorter and cooler before it actually starts blooming. And I think if I want to actually be able to harvest those blooms, and them not get burnt up, I might have to plant I might have to plant them against that retaining wall. But that's okay. I had a raised bed over there last year, and I actually grew some of the pro-cut sunflowers over there, but not all of them did that great because they were in that far shaded part. So I thought, oh, nothing's gonna grow that well over here, and I ripped out the raised bed. I think I'm gonna put another one over there and try again, and maybe grow cool weather crops over there, maybe more lettuces and bok choy, and maybe some calendula. And then in this bed here, I have 6 little rows of bush beans. So they're the big kahuna bush beans. If you find me on TikTok, you can see just the different plantings that I do. I post little short 60-second videos on TikTok of different plantings. And then this is bed number 4 that was dug this past week. I was trying to look to see if this trellis that I had would do well here, but the thing is I would need like 2 more for the amount of melons that I need here, and I could not find any more of this trellis. I got it last year, I believe, at Lowe's, and I looked at Lowe's and Home Depot, and I didn't see anything like that, anything like this that has the fold over top. And this was pretty inexpensive, and it seems like all the trellises they have this year are really pricey. So I think I might just end up using tomato cages, honestly, and seeing how that goes. I think I'm just going to use tomato cages for my Kajari melons. I think they get a lot of foliage, but if it doesn't work out, then I'll look for another trellis. But I forgot to show you guys the lavender. So let's walk over here and take a look. I don't know what this tree is or this tree. And they have not started to put on any foliage. We did not take care of these trees at all last year. We did not water them. We did not mulch them because we did not know that we needed to. This tree is starting to get these tiny little buds. So I really hope that it comes back and we can redeem ourselves and start taking better care of the trees. So the one over there I did mulch and pruned a couple weeks ago, as well as the one over there I mulched and pruned it. But neither of those have any buds on them. So we shall see. I want to mulch and prune this one this week and just start deep watering and see if that will help it, because I'm really hoping that they're fruit trees. So we'll see. This is the lavender that I got this past week at Lowe's. It had a lot of flowers on it. I cut all those flowers off just because it was kind of struggling. It was going through a lot of transplant shock, so I figured cutting the flowers off would help it so that it wouldn't be trying to make seed and it could focus on root development. And then I've been keeping it watered every evening. So it's kind of bouncing back. I'm pretty sure. I also cut off a lot of the foliage that was starting to die, so we shall see. This was 2 containers worth, 2-gallon containers. Those are the containers there. So there was 3 plants in each container, and they were very root bound as well. And then over here is my currant bush, which I might have a video of for my garden tour last year. I'm trying to make this little rock pattern around the bush, but I thought I had lost this currant bush. Someone actually gave this to me, and I had to cut it back a lot because nothing was growing at the top, like at all. So I put it in the ground and it got a little bit of foliage, and then winter came and everything on it died. And the sprouts that had started to come up had died as well. So I thought, and I don't know anyone else with a currant bush or anyone else around here that grows currants or anything, and so I was like, I'll just leave it and see. And then once it started warming up, it started coming back. So I'm super excited about that. You can see these rocks, this little rock pattern. This is how our soil is. It's almost like clay. You know, if I wet this down a little bit better and smush these rocks in, they'll be pretty set. So yeah, but I'm really excited about that currant bush. I would love to get fruit this year. I don't know. Most of what's growing is new. I don't know if they're called canes or if they call them currant canes or currant wood. I don't know what they call them, but I don't know if fruit grows on first year stems or first year wood. I don't know. I'll need to Google that, but those are either red or pink currants. So yeah. And those are right next to the zinnia and lettuce bed. Once these lettuces are done, which I'm surprised they're not done already. I planted these in the fall as well, but once these are done, these will come out. And I have another round of zinnias to plant in. So yeah, that's how everything is looking. We can walk this way and take a full look at the garden. I'm still debating about whether or not I want to put wood chips down the rows or try to go grow grass. You can see the edges are growing grass just because I water the beds. So, and we would use the grass. Like, if we had grass, I would cut it and I would use it for mulch like I already do. We still have a lot of dead grass over there, which I use for mulch. But if it was alive, I would also use it for mulch, and I'd also feed it to the ducks because they really enjoy eating the grass. So yeah, that's how everything is looking. I'm super excited about the way the garden is progressing a month from now. I mean, it's already glorious, I feel like, but I feel like a month from now, it's going to be breathtaking. It's going to take my breath away. Just because I'm so pleased with the progress of the garden, and sometimes I look at it and I can't believe, like that, I had the capability to do this. So, I mean, last year, so many learning experiences, so many mistakes, but I'm thankful for it because I could apply the knowledge to this year's garden. And each year, I pray that it just continues to grow and flourish, and I continue to learn more lessons here in the garden. So, um, yeah, I will be posting another tour at the end of April, and that will be my April garden tour, and we'll see what the difference has been over the next month. Thank you so much for joining me in the garden, and until next time, keep learning and keep growing.